everybody. Welcome back. This is Miss Faye, and this is my world. All right, today we have a testimonial, and she entitled her letter, An Emotionally Unavailable Man. So let's dive right into this letter and see what she says. 2 years ago, I remember sending you a message, and I would like to update you and your viewers if you allow. When I look back on my original message, I can confidently say that I have experienced growth, healing, and contentment. I am now 30 years old, and my way of thinking is nothing like it was when I was 28. Well, good for you. My original message left off with me stating that this man was emotionally unavailable, never poured into me, and had no place of his own. After having continuous issues while living with his sister, he ended up being kicked out with nowhere to go. Of course, he asked if he could come stay with me, and I stupidly said yes. He ended up living with me for the next year and a half. While he lived with me, I was cooking, taking care of him, helping him complete a certification that would help him land a specific job. You can also assume intimacy was involved, and I was footing the bill for some of his expenses. He had no job or money, but was taking classes needed to complete his program. We grew very close during these months, and he even told me he loved me. That he told you that just to keep you going, just to keep you doing what you were doing for him. So, when a man says he loves you, ladies, many times we think it's from his heart that he loves us the way that we are. But he may be saying he loves what you are doing for him. Not that he loves you, but he loves the service that you are extending to him. Okay? He didn't have much money, but he did try to do things to let me know he appreciated me. Well, yeah, because he didn't want to be kicked out. He wanted to be able to stay in your good graces because he had nowhere else to go. So, of course, he's going to be nice as pie so you don't get upset with him and tell him to leave. Okay? Eventually, he completed his certification, and he was positioned to be able to work and start making his own money. He landed a job pretty quickly, but the job required he be on the road a lot. However, he came home every 2 to 3 weeks. To clarify, home meant my house. Well, of course. LOL. We continued to be involved, but he could never and didn't want to define what me and him were because you were nothing. That's why you didn't have a title. You were just somebody that he lived with. That's all, just roommates. That's it. Sometimes I was too afraid to ask, as though it was push him away. It's a lot of women in that position. They don't want to bring up the red flags that they see because they don't want the man to just get upset and go. He had an avoidant personality, and talks of intimacy made him uncomfortable because he wasn't trying to get that close to you. Okay? I let this go on, and we acted like a couple, but there was no title, and he boldly stated he would never marry me. Well, you know what? If you wanted to marry, you should have left him. You never should have let him move in. I know you realize that now. Ladies, don't allow a man to move into your home. If he doesn't have a place to stay, it's just too bad. If he gets kicked out, too bad. That's his problem, not your problem. You shouldn't even be dating a man who's broke. Okay? So he said that he don't want to marry you. I accepted it, but my heart was broken deep down. Things continued, and he would buy me stuff, take me on nice dates, and he even booked us a mini vacation. However, that longing for clarity about us was still there. I am ashamed to admit, but despite the lack of clarity, I acted like a wife to him, even though I didn't even know what I was to him. I always made sure he had a hot meal when he came home. I would run errands for him, be his therapist, affirm him, and try my hardest to be his peace. You know, he really does sound like a narcissist because when I was with the narcissist, I basically did the same thing because I thought we were building something together. It was all in my mind. This illusion wasn't in his mind at all. On his end, he was hot and cold. Some days he would act like he was so passionate for me, and other days he would be cold and wouldn't even call for days while he was out on the road. That's because he was entertaining other women. Regardless, I kept pressing on and trying to make this situationship work. Well, you had invested a lot of time in it and energy. And plus, his stuff was still at your home. So that's why you were trying to make it work. You had high hopes that this was going to be it for you. You know, you were going to be able to throw your dating book away and settle down with this man. But it wasn't meant to be. After a while, my intuition led me to believe that the end was near. He was my date for my friend's wedding, and we had a great time. I'm embarrassed to say this, but I thought him accompanying me to the wedding would change his mind about marriage. No, I don't think it ever has for any man. It didn't. I would also like to mention that he ended up getting his own apartment and making great money. He truly leveled up. Well, when he got his own job and made good money, did he offer to reimburse you for all of the time and energy and money that you had spent on him, especially since you didn't have a commitment? So actually, he owed you for covering him during his time of need. So he should have been very generous to you, but I doubted if he was. We ended on a very random day, Halloween to be exact, which is not a random day in terms of the calendar, but random because I didn't see it coming. On the evening prior, he didn't text me back or call me back like he said he would. I asked him, why didn't he call me back? He had been acting weird and was distant. He, of course, made up some excuse, but deflected by pointing to the fact that he answered when I called, so it shouldn't matter if he didn't call me back last night. He didn't call you back because he was entertaining someone else. That's why. My reasoning for being upset was important because we literally just talked about better communication, mainly on his end because I always showed up for him. After pressing him for answers and explanation, he said to me, I don't want to do this anymore. He didn't want to pretend. He'd already found somebody else that he wanted to move on with, and he didn't want to keep dealing with you. And just like that, he dumped me. I tried to beg and plead with him. You shouldn't have. It only made you feel worse. It didn't make a difference, I'm sure. But something in me just said, believe him and let him go. So I did. I said to him, fine. I will give you what you want. And I hung up and have not spoken to him since. That was almost a year ago. My heart was shattered. I know it was. And there were many dark days that lay ahead of me. I loved him so much. And I wanted him to commit to me so badly. I poured into him and thought that my loyalty would win him over. You know, you're not alone, because a lot of women think that. They think their love will change a man's mind about them. It never has, and it never will. If the man wants you, really wants you in the beginning, and he bonds with you, then you will have a title. But if he's just playing you and you allow him to come into your home, use up your resources, use your body, you can be pretty sure that you're headed down a dark path. I had a range of emotions after we ended. I was sad, angry, hurt, resentful, and so much more. I felt used. You were highly used. I felt like situational support and a stepping stone until he got to a certain place in life. After all I did for him, he discarded me like yesterday's trash. That's because he never cared for you in the first place. He loved that you gave him a place to stay, but he didn't appreciate it. He took it for granted that he got over on you. Okay? Now you say, despite all this, this was a lesson that I needed to learn. Looking back, I didn't love myself, and I had low self-esteem. I thought he was the best I could or would ever do. But by the time he got to the better version of himself, well, you know, just because he got a better job doesn't mean it was a better version. It just means he got a better job. He was still a snake, even in his new job. I was drained and depleted, and he left me to pick up the pieces of my broken heart. As tough as this was, this forever changed me. Well, then you did learn the lesson not to ever do this again. First, never let a man move in. No, don't do it. I don't care what the circumstances is. I don't care if he's got a great job. He just needs a place to stay. No. Many times, women will allow a man to move into their home is because, well, number one, you feel like you're going to be love bombed every day because that's how he got you in the first place. Or even if he's broke, you feel like, you know, the love will make up the fact that he doesn't have anything. And he's working toward doing better financially for himself. But in your mind, you never think that he's not including you in his plans. You never think that. You think it's going to be us. When he gets a better job, we're going to be everything together. We're going to go on trips, on dates, and have a wonderful time. And he's thinking, when I get on my feet and I'm getting the heck out of here and find the woman that I really want. Okay, that's what he's thinking. I want to know something that's crazy and that resonates with me. A week before we ended, he says to me, "See, you think I'm here to be your lover. I am really here as a lesson." You know, he's playing with you. It's a mind game. How can he come and say that he's a lesson? You know, that's a trick. That's a snaky trick for him to try to manipulate your mind this way. At the time, we were talking about something unrelated, but his words were almost like a warning of what was to come. He truly was a lesson. Well, he was, but how did he know he was? How did he know that he was coming there to teach you a lesson. That's a lot of baloney. He used that term because he's probably heard it before, heard that he's a narcissist, and narcissists teach lessons. So that he just using that to play with your mind. Okay? He doesn't consider himself a lesson. He considers himself as being clever, that he can get over on women. Okay? After going through all that, I was happy to say that I am 95% healed ever since I accepted his departure. I have become a better version of myself. I love myself more than ever. I enjoy my own company, and I have been truly living my best life. My boundaries are stricter, and I have no problem with walking away at the first sign of a red flag. One day, I would love to meet the love of my life, but right now I'm not desperate for it, and I'm perfectly content. Well, when you're perfectly content and healing, be cautious because you're still wanting to meet. You still got the desire right there to meet the love of your life. Okay? That's a tricky place to be in because the next man that comes to you may be just a test. The next man that comes to you may be a man who has a job, but then he may use you in other ways. So be very careful. And also, caution, don't sleep with him. You can hold a man off and see his true colors if you don't sleep with him. But once you sleep with him, your eyes are foggy. You can't see anything. And your mind races and starts creating the illusion that you have love when you don't have anything but like a vapor. That's it. As for him, 6 months after he dumped me, he reached out and stated he missed me and was sorry for everything. That sounds like a narcissist because a narcissist never really leaves a supply. And it sounds like you were a good supply. You had your own home and everything, let him move in. But the thing is, with this, you were pressuring him for a commitment. Okay? That was a little problem. Usually narcissists start seeking better supply if the supply that they're with, starts questioning them and looking deeper into the situation. They view you as a problem. So they seek other supply. Now, the next supply may have had more than you. He may have moved in with another woman or the prospect of moving in with another woman. Sometimes it works out for them and sometimes it doesn't. Now, for him to be coming back to you doesn't mean that he's trying to move in again, but he's coming back to use you some more. Because in his mind, he feels like you're so hooked on him that you can't say no. That's narcissistic behavior. I left his message on read and didn't even bother to respond. A month later, he followed up and asked if he could see me and take me out to dinner. That's a classic move of a narcissist. Classic. Okay? No response to that. I can't think of anything I want to talk about with him. And I also can't think of anywhere he would fit into my current life. Well, good. It's funny because during our time together, he told me he felt like he could always come back to me if we ever stopped talking. He did. That's narcissists. They always feel they can come back to supply. Now, with my narcissist, I made it clear that it's over and don't ever contact me under any circumstances again. And I blocked him. So he can't. He know better than to call me or try to call me. He hasn't tried to contact me. He probably moved on to greener pastures because already peeped his whole card. Already know all about him, all about what he's into and all of that. And narcissists don't want to be exposed. So they will stay away from you if they fear that you will expose them. And he knows I will. Okay? He was sadly mistaken and miscalculated because I'd rather braid water than take him back. Good for you. Never change that in your mind. But you really need to block him so that you don't see his text, you don't hear from him, you just want to erase him out of your life, period. Don't leave any door or crack where he can slither in at any time. I wanted my lesson to be used for women and young girls who may struggle with self-esteem. Don't be like me and learn the hard way. Love yourself before anyone, but in a way that stays true to yourself and doesn't allow for you to accept the bare minimum. You are worthy of love that isn't confusing, hurtful, or unfulfilling. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. And ladies, listen to that good advice, because that will save you from a lot of heartbreak. You see, narcissists are demonic people, and they use their powers to seduce women and to use them, and the women end up with a broken heart where they go off to seek other supply. Narcissists don't care about anybody, even the new supply. It's the same thing. It's a vicious, evil cycle. And you want to get off that hamster wheel. So, in the beginning, the key is, don't forget, stop sleeping with these men. And if they leave, leave. Okay? If they leave you because you won't sleep with them, let them leave. Because that means they weren't that serious about you anyway. They were only looking for sex or your resources. There are men who would use sex just to get at your resources, like this guy did. He used sex in the beginning to move into your home, to make you think that you could build something together. And you figured with him getting his certificate, when he gets that and starts making money, the two of you could have a happy life together. It was all in your head. He never said it. He never sat down with you and say, listen, when I make this money, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. I'm going to make sure you're good. Did he ever? If it doesn't come out of his mouth and it's all in your mind, that's all it is, an illusion. And narcissists are great people in creating illusions. Ladies, know when you have something real. And it takes time to cultivate something real. It's not a fast thing to where you meet somebody, you got butterflies, you feel like it's love, and he's making you think that it's love. No. Take your time, ladies. Allow a man to prove his love to you outside of the bedroom. Okay? If you can't do that, then it's not love. I want to thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. And I really hope that her letter helps you to avoid narcissists and people who are out to do you harm. I want to thank you so much for supporting this channel. Now, those of you who may have a question that you'd like for me to answer, my email address is in the description. I want to thank you so much for supporting this channel. Thank you for your comments and your letters. And a very special thank you to those that leave a donation. I really appreciate all of you. I wish you all the very best. And I really hope to see you next time.